do that. And I know I find a lot of peace when I can sort of measure things and look at things in a binary, from a binary perspective, figure out what's working and not working. So, whatever you're doing, it's good to have some sort of framework around it, so that, things are working or not working, or if you have to change things. So that's your funnel, and how to assess, what's working, not working, etc. And what's the number one thing to look out for? So I see a lot of projects come in the door, and they're like 6 months old, and they're like, yeah, we have 1 million users. And you go to their socials and you see like 500K, or you'll see 2 million people, and you'll see, big numbers. And one byproduct of giving people things to do on chain is that you don't know what's real and what's not real. And so it's really important to stay sober and sort of understand what your real numbers are. Even if your, big numbers sound good to investors, and, I'm sure they'll work with investors, but it's really good to, as an entrepreneur, to know what is truth and what is fiction, and to have that very sober perspective. And so realistically, what I see from engagement sort of activities that are getting farmed is anywhere from 10 to 20% of the community actually being real. So if you are getting heavily farmed, that's one heuristic you can use to see, what's actually real. I don't think it's worth using like analytics tools and stuff to filter that stuff out, because even those can be gamed. The only thing that actually works with this stuff is like KYC. So maybe something like WorldCoin or some KYC solution. That's the only way. Otherwise, it's worth just discounting and moving ahead. Discounting, what your user base is by that 80%, and then moving ahead. And, the more you discount, the more sort of effort you're going to put into, growing the numbers. I'm going to pause in case there's like, I'll take 2 questions, and then we'll keep going with the presentation. Is that okay, Albert?
Yeah, of course. Who wants to ask a question? Going once. Did someone raise their hand? No, you guys want to, okay, how about we save them to the end, because it's so good right now. Yeah.
All right. So what are some tools you can employ to actually grow? And these tool chains are kind of like important, because you're going to want to make the decision very early on. Do you want to do something that's completely homegrown, or do you want to use third-party solutions that are out there? So one of my favorite examples out there is Boost XYZ. They basically hook into your app to track conversion rates when people do different things on chain, and then you can give out a token for doing that. And what's the most impactful way to get people in your community and then learning about your application? Because it's really easy to get people to get a token, for example, for following you on Twitter and then going into your Discord. So that's great. And you can get really big user numbers that are out there. But when you're thinking of it in the context of a sale, or you're thinking of it in terms of the context of a real user that will actually convert to your platform, that can be really noisy to just have people connect to socials. And so I always favor tools that can sort of get some more on-chain activity. And you can either look at something homegrown, which is a really great option, I think, because you can layer things into your application. So there's some apps out there that have, for example, leaderboards embedded for sort of power users of the application, or they'll give points in the website as you're using the application. I think that's the best, highest quality thing you can do, because you're going to have the best data. You're going to be able to sort of analyze where are people coming from, what's working, what's not working. Okay, it looks like this one refer is working the best. Let's double down and put more cash into making that work. And let's ignore everything else. So if you can do something custom in your application, that's the best thing that will convert. But then there are tools like Boost XYZ, which is more on chain, Zeely, which is more social, that you can use to get up and running like pretty quickly. So tool chains are very important. And you know, if you have a good dev team, custom is definitely the path, especially if they're, you know, you have enough people on staff to not get distracted with the roadmap. But then using third-party tools is always great. And then as you're moving forward, how do you know you're going to be successful? We had one customer and they had like, I think they had like 300, 400. This was back when people were really active on like Telegram more so than Discord. And I remember they had like a small number of users in their Telegram. And they had a guy on the team that just had all these like crazy ideas and a lot of energy. And so he had the idea to announce an airdrop. And this was really early on, 2018. And so he announced an airdrop, and overnight, the socials went to like 10,000, 20,000. At some point, it hit the Telegram limit at 100,000. They had to open up a second channel. And so it's good to have a lot of ideas for what will work and to have sort of like sessions, maybe weekly, where you're talking about what's working, what's not working, and how can we get more users active. And so you definitely want to have a lot of ideas flowing, have a lot of creativity, and be able to move quickly with the ideas. And like iteration really matters in startups. So like the faster you can iterate and execute on these ideas, the better. You know, if an idea is going to take 3 to 6 months to execute on, and it's not like a core roadmap long-term thing, it might not be worth it. But if it's going to take, you know, 3 to 7 days to get this up and running, and it's only one person's time or two people's time it'll take, then it's worth doing a lot of these experiments. And you know, it's just that like startups are you know, it's half art, and so you have to try a lot of organic ideas and try a lot of different things that'll work and see what works. Other things that are sort of like important, if you are more developer focused, this doesn't necessarily apply to everyone, but I think in the crypto space, a good developer experience is really important. Having as much stuff as you can open source is good. Basically, staying as close to Bitcoin values is the best thing, right? So Bitcoin, completely open source, anyone can use it. It's decentralized, and so you know what's a good North Star for what you're building is sort of like Bitcoin and Bitcoin values. And so for some apps that are out there, a good developer experience is very important because it determines how quickly people can onboard and experiment with your products. And the more people experiment with your product, the more ideas you have about what's working, what's not working. You might get ideas for things you didn't even think about that are worth sort of integrating into your product. And then you know, how do you make sure you're successful? Also, you kind of want good centralized communication with your community. So for all these things, you want a single place where people should expect to hear. They should expect to hear all of the comms that are going out. So you have some sort of on-chain marketing campaign that's going. You know, what is the number one place people should expect to hear everything? So you need good ideas. You need a lot of experimentation, and then you need some sort of like direct communication that's expected and replicable, et cetera. And you know, I talked a little bit about this. What are some example? Oh, is the sound still low? I just saw a note about the sound being low.
It's loud and clear on my side.
Okay, great. Okay, so some examples of campaigns that could work. So again, social things like follow us on Twitter, follow us on Discord, less impactful. Follow us on Twitter and then connect your wallet. A little bit better, but again, you're going to want to have people using your platform. I'll talk a little bit about why. So like, what's a better campaign? And so this is using a AMM as an example. Sorry, it's a Ethereum AMM as an example. And so, what does a good campaign do? And so a good campaign gets the users in the community familiar with how the product works. Because at the end of the day, we're building products. We want to get them out there as much as possible. And we want people to iterate on it. So we want to learn about what's working, what's not working. So the number one goal of a sort of go-to-market campaign should be to get as many users familiar with the app. And then to the extent you can drive on-chain usage, that's the best. So even if it's just on testnet, that's great because you're going to learn a lot about, what are the points of friction, what's working, what's not working in the product. And then you're going to learn a lot about, you're going to get a lot of user testing out of it as well. And so you drive on-chain usage, you get some metrics now, you can take those to investors, you get some user testing, so you get the product better. And ideally, those on-chain numbers just keep going up as you're going because you're iterating and you're making the product better as you're moving. And this is great for even just testnet. And so, user testing, you're going to get a little bit about what works well in the product, what doesn't work well. I love using these programs for testing edge cases. So like, let's walk through this example campaign and talk through like what the learnings can be. So you're going to have someone in the app, you're going to give these instructions to your community. You're going to say, hey, this is the current quest that we have or the marketing campaign. There may be rewards for engaging in this campaign at a later date. And so, the instructions you give the community are connect your wallet to the application. And then the next thing you want them to do is to get testnet USDC and ETH. And then the next thing that you want them to do is sort of like the first step in the user flow. So I always start with like, hey, what is the first thing a user will be doing when engaging with this application? In this case, we're assuming there's zero liquidity TVL. So you have to first add liquidity to the USDC ETH pool. And then what's sort of like the next step that's possible after that, the ability to buy and sell assets in and out of the pool. And so now you're basically walking users through the flow from sort of A to Z. You're learning about the points of friction. And the next thing that you might want to do is you can have people just buy 1 USDC and sell 0.1 ETH. Or you can use this as an opportunity to test different edge cases. As engineers, sometimes we have rounding errors. And so, one of the things you might want to test is just all the edge cases for different numbers. And so you might want to give them a set of edge cases to test so you can see how do the boundaries of the contracts or the boundaries of the code work. And so now we're getting a combination of user testing and we're getting a combination of bug testing as well. And let me walk through this and talk about like, as the founder, what are you going to learn when people go through this? And so, the first thing that you might learn is, hey, some of my users just don't have a wallet. So how do I make that easier? How do I solve that problem? Is it just better messaging on the website, or do I want to give them an embedded wallet? Is that secure enough? Is that not secure enough? It sounds like it's more usable. So you'll be able to get all these learnings from that, get testnet USDC and ETH, where are the users going to get the tokens or crypto they need to interact with my app? Should I build an embedded solution so they can buy within the app? Adding liquidity, people don't know how that works. Should I have an explainer in the app or a walkthrough that explains how that works? So I need some videos for that, etc. So when you build your base case that you want the user to go through, it's a great opportunity to just learn from the user perspective, because it's, if you're building stuff, it's so hard to see it from the other side. But when you can use these campaigns to get a diverse set of users hitting against the platform, you can learn about, who's your target market, who's just not your target market, which different campaigns are working, driving the right type of user to your platform, which ones are not, where are people getting stuck in the platform, where's my conversion rate going from 90% to 10%, can I improve anything there? So these campaigns are not only good for growing community, but you can sort of supercharge how much you're learning about your product, and you can sort of improve and iterate on it really quickly. Okay, so we talked a lot about like ideas, tools, and now like how do we think about this and measure it? And so this is where sort of a framework comes in. So we talked a little bit about best practices, ideas, tools, things like that. And the way I like to look at this is sort of like a marketing calendar. And so when you have this quest or activities that you want people to do, you're going to be making announcements. Hey, we're opening this campaign, and this is going to be the first in the series. We're going to have one every week. And so every week, your team has time to prepare an announcement about what you want users to do that week. You're going to have enough time for your engineers to implement anything they need to implement. Maybe this is tied to your development calendar. So maybe you have releases every 2 weeks. You have things that you want people to try out. And so you're going to put out a campaign announcements every 2 weeks, or maybe 2 days before your release. And you're going to get people ready to engage with your application in one way or another. So if you can have these around major feature releases, better. If they're more minor feature releases, it's okay. Even a mix is good, because you can keep people engaged and build the repetition of getting people trained to come to your application every week, engage with each other, drop some memes in the chat, and play around with the product. And so marketing calendars are good, drum beats are good. And the more you can do, the better. Some people just do one. And the problem when you just do one is sometimes an announcement takes time to mature. And so like in our platform, we'll announce something is open or live. And maybe some people come in right away, but really when you make an announcement, it can take like a week to mature. And so you may want to announce something and then keep repeating it. And sometimes you announce something and then it takes like a week for people to pass it around to their friends and let them know. You might want to pre-announce something to warm everyone up and then announce it so they put it on their calendar and they're ready. But that's something to think about, is when you announce something, nothing might happen, and that's okay. It's okay for nothing to happen right away, but you need to sit on it for at least a week just to make sure that, just to see how things mature. A lot of times we have people announce things and nothing happens and they panic, which is what you don't want to do. But you might want to get out there and talk to users and see, hey, what do you think of this announcement? Is it exciting? Is it not exciting? Oh, it sounds like it just takes some time to go buy some Bitcoin to get it into your wallet, and so that's fine. So maybe you want to do more marketing around getting users through that part of the funnel. So important to sort of like stick with your thesis. Don't panic if nothing happens right away, but use it as an opportunity to learn more, gather more information, and figure out how you can do better as you're moving forward. And when we're looking at an announcement calendar, the number one thing that matters is user numbers. How many users in the community, how many users in the app? And so if you're doing a sale, you're doing an airdrop, you're going to be doing an announcement every week, every month. And at point of launch, that's when you're going to want your target user numbers. So I'll give you some heuristics for what's good and what are good user numbers. And if it's a lot bigger than what you're expecting for launch, that's okay. But I think, it's a good target. It's a good healthy target, and it's what's worked for a lot of our customers that we've launched so far. So if you can target, for example, 10 to 20K at launch, and let's say it's real users, not gamed, then that's sort of a good North Star to hold. And so the game becomes, what is my North Star KPI, and how many users do I need at each stage to increase in order to get to that KPI? And so for some of you, you might want to set this target user number at 1,000. You might want to say it's 1,000 in my application, and then I want 10,000 in my